I was asked about how to maintain a basic level of Atmos on a shuttle. And in order to understand how to maintain a basic Atmos on a shuttle, we need to understand how pressure damage works and how little oxygen slash nitrogen you need to breathe. Every species in the game, and on Wisden specifically, breathes oxygen. The only species that breathes nitrogen is a slime. Since the majority of the station will be breathing oxygen, and one oxygen canister is actually technically all you need to make a basic Atmos that you can survive in for most of the crew. This is a 77 tile large room that had no atmosphere in it at all, and I open up a default oxygen canister that was not like condensed in any way. It is default 20 degrees Celsius in here, so you see it's still 20 Celsius. I just opened the canister as much as I could. There's still a tiny bit in there, but it's irrelevant. Due to the fact that pressure damage doesn't actually start affecting you until you're at 20 kPa, this person in here, despite the fact there's only one oxygen canister, they will even have the low pressure warning, but that's all it is just a warning. I can move around in here and breathe just fine and not take any pressure damage. Of course, if you have a lot of people in here, you will start breathing oxygen, and eventually you will actually start suffocating due to how low the pressure is, but that will take a while, and you could always just start using internals at this point. You won't take pressure damage, but you may start suffocating if you go beyond this. So one basic oxygen canister can actually make a livable atmosphere in a 77 tile room. This is a fully pressurized room with only one canister. It's not quite perfect, but it's pretty close. But this room is only 18 tiles, so you will probably have to be somewhat comfortable with a lower atmosphere in your ship. But again, just because it's warning you that it's dangerous, it isn't actually dangerous. It just might become dangerous if you lose any additional air. So this room has no pressure in it at all. You can literally just take any canister, oxygen preferable, and click open and leave it at the default 101 kPa, which is basically like Earth's atmosphere. And it will just open until it tries to hit that level of pressure. It won't be able to hit that level of pressure because there's just not enough air in this canister, to actually fill up the entire room. But at this point, this is a fully livable environment. I could spawn a naked person inside. They're not going to suffocate. They're not going to take any pressure damage. Of course, if I spawn a slime, they will start taking, they will start suffocating. They won't die from pressure, because there is ample pressure in this room, but there's no nitrogen for them to breathe, and you can see them gasping like so. But slimes take very little asphyxiation damage, so really, it still isn't that the biggest issue in the world for them. So a basic atmospheric setup is literally just opening a canister and letting the canister do what it has to do. If I spawn a bunch of canisters and just leave them all at their default 101 kPa, if I open all of them, they will not waste any gas. They, on their own, basically function as a like an air injector. It just knows when to stop injecting air. The pressure will equalize, so there's no, you can't waste air, basically. I'm definitely over explaining this. It's really not that complicated. As you can see, the kPa of the room is about 101, so that means that all the extra oxygen tanks are going to slow down and eventually stop releasing any pressure because it will equalize in the room. So at this point, this is basically an Earth level atmosphere in here, but it's all oxygen, so our slime compatriots still cannot breathe. In order to solve this issue, it's really easy. You could just open an oxygen canister and a nitrogen canister together. That works on its own. It really is just that simple. It will just spread out oxygen and nitrogen. There's no such thing as like oxygen poisoning in this game, so there really is no danger of having poor mixes. A lot of Atmos techs just actually mix the oxygen and nitrogen 50-50. As you can see, even in this size room, these two canisters is enough to actually make the pressure very comfortable and breathable for every species in here. And shuttles definitely do get bigger than this, so you have to upscale appropriately. But again, as long as no one's dying from pressure damage and everyone can breathe, it really doesn't matter if it's low on pressure. There's no real downsides to this. This right here is about as basic of as a Atmos setup as you could possibly get. This is just an oxygen canister and a nitrogen canister on a mixer that's set to 50-50, meaning that it won't waste any air at all. It will not dispense any air from these canisters until you have a proper 50-50. Of course, if you want to use an air vent, you need power, but you could always just use a passive vent, which does not require any power, and it will just take from these canisters and inject at a 101 kPa until either the canisters can't do that or the room itself hits 101 kPa. course, with the passive vent, it's a little bit slower than just opening the canisters themselves, but this is a more robust Atmos setup. It isn't just canisters turned on or off. This lets you get a little bit more control over it, but and it looks nicer. I mean, this looks like an actual setup. This isn't just canisters open in a corner of a room. And of course, this also lets you pipe uh, vents directly through your ship. I'm not going to make a huge example of how to do this, but obviously, if you're just opening canisters, you have to literally direct the air through each room by opening doors. But with this, you can set up vents. You can set up a scrubber system if you want. But all you have to do with this is just set up a vent in each room that you want. You can even start making things like air alarms if you wish. But again, I was only asked how to make a simple Atmos. This is certainly just how you start because you're not going to have miners. You just need to have a gas mixer with canister ports injected up to at least some sort of vent. A passive vent doesn't require power, but if you have a shuttle, you're going to have power. So at that point, you just use air vents, and then you just hook them up like little Lego pieces in every room that you want, and it will keep building pressure until it hits 101 or whatever you have this set to, and that's really it. Hopefully this was simple enough. I did most of this as an A ghost to make it as explainable as possible. Anyways, thank you for watching.